Hi guys, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, based on your time and location. It's really nice to meet with you once more. Today we are going to embark on this journey. Well, based on our previous discussions, chapter 1, I think it's like an introductory part about the life of Adigwe and the loss of her husband and a very important sponsor all at the same time after such terrible ordeals. Let's look forward to see what more we have to discover, okay, about this the title, Disappointment. Alright, so diving into chapter 2. The funeral of Dikogo was possible because Adigwe was prudent in spending the money she received on the eve of Dikogo's demise. The hospital bill was less than half of the expected bill. The management of the hospital purposely wrote the bill in sympathy with Adigwe. She paid it from the money she received and had a good chunk as balance. The balance was sufficient for the funeral and more. The Obodani residence of Dikogo was agog with people and events for about 2 weeks. The first week was action-packed as one group of condolence visitors replaced the other. People still trickled in during the second week. By the end of the third week, the compound had become lonely. One relation or the other came in at one time or the other. There were days when nobody visited them at all. Obodani people mourned their dead ones for 6 months, and for a widow, it was a period of absolute confinement, a time of sober reflection, a time of temptation, a time of depression, and for some of them, it was also a time to arrange for the way forward. Adigwe had been a busy type right from her infancy, and to be confined indoors was more of imprisonment to her. The first 3 months was hard for her, as she was now allowed to be seen outside her husband's compound. At the end of the 3 months, she was allowed to go to market and pick her needs, the needs of her family. She bought food items and provisions whenever she did. Occasionally, she visited one relation or the other and stayed for less than an hour. In those days, about 1 month after the funeral of Dikogo, Adigwe thought about her relationship with Enema, especially about the way she came across her friend. It started on the day they were enrolled into the primary school. They had before then attended different pre-nursery and nursery schools. Fate brought them together on the fateful day. The parents of the two pupils became interested in one another when it was discovered during the identification stage of enrollment that Adigwe and Enema were born the same day. "What a coincidence," exclaimed Auntie at the date of 6th day of August. And that year, in the personal data supplied for the two pupils by their parents, the two also looked alike to the admiration of everybody around. They were the same size and complexion. Even though Enema was a bit darker, it was a fascinating experience, such that the pupils and their parents became friends. Adigwe loved Enema as much as Enema loved Adigwe, but she was wiser in the relationship right from the beginning. Even though Enema was a little taller and bigger than Adigwe, it was Adigwe that controlled and guided their relationship. She knew that despite Enema's sound academic faculties, there was in her a penchant for being inadequate in some matters of life. Auntie was fond of the two pupils as much as the pupils were fond of her. Auntie always ensured that the pupils answered the same questions whenever the questions required multiple response. It became a habit in their class that after one of them responded to a question, the same question was administered to the other. Auntie used this approach in teaching their faculties, their reflex and the depth of their knowledge of the topic in question. In doing this, the teacher wanted to garner enough data with which to have her commentary of the intelligent quotient of the people. Enema was better than Adigwe in some topics and subjects, whereas Adigwe surpassed Enema in some other areas. It was like that in terminal and sessional examination. The two pupils also proved useful to their school in sports towards the end of their career in the primary school. Adigwe was a sprinter and a very fast one for that matter. She had a lot of medals in the 100 meters, 200 meters, and 400 meters event. The school celebrated Adigwe like Christmas at any sports festival. Enema was gifted in the field events like the volleyball, long jump, and high jump. Her medals in these events were as many as those of Adigwe. The pupils contrasted in their family background. Adigwe was the daughter of a petty trader. Her father, Okongu, was a father of 7 children. Her mother was better than her husband, as she was an apprentice to her husband in the petty trading. The love they had in their children and in education inspired them to invest anything they had in the sponsorship of their children. Enema's parents were not well-to-do too, but they had a caring in-law who was ready to help in every pressing situation. Enema's father was a low-ranking teacher in one of the primary schools around. Like Adigwe's father, he had a lot of children. His salary was always distributed on the needs of his family before the end of every month. That was why, when their in-law discovered the plight of the family, he decided to assist them. And he chose Enema as a beneficiary. He took charge of her education and sponsored her to the highest level. Adigwe's past was very much part of her present. From the era of the primary school days, she progressed to the era of the post-primary. She was in the dreamland during the night and was able to cover the period of adolescence. She had grown and matured into an elegant beauty by the time she was writing the examination that brought her secondary school career to a conclusion. Adigwe grew up and matured along with her friend Enema. Enema was 2 inches below 6 feet, whereas Adigwe was 3 inches below the mark of 6 feet. Adigwe had a very beautiful face, even though some of their friends understood Enema as being a bit flashy as far as facial beauty was concerned. So, on the question of facial beauty, they gave it to Enema. But there were some tantalizing features, unique physical features in Adigwe. She was a hairy type, and the hair grew so luxuriantly that no one, male or female, passed by her without stealing a glance. The hair, dark enough, contrasted with her complexion, that was chocolate. Her neck was perfectly modeled to match her slender abdomen. Her limbs were strong and lively. She was endowed with a natural gait, a gift that made her movement resemble the one of an angel. The question of who was more beautiful than the other generated controversy among their classmates in secondary school. The classmates made comparison in their presence and graded them with some criteria. They often told Enema that she was facially prettier, and whenever she was told so, the world went gay for her. Their friends also often said before the two of them that Adigwe was a special creation on account of her frame, her hair, and her unique complexion. They said that the hair on Adigwe was the manner with which the Creator garnished her beauty. Adigwe often quarreled with them at the mention of this accolade. She contended that God's endowment should not be discussed like that. Everybody should cherish their own endowment. The endowments of God should not be a thing of debate. Adigwe was not moved by her own accolades and compliments, unlike her friend, who was always elated whenever the discussion was on. She was good in subduing her emotions and almost always did her best to scuttle that kind of discussion. On many occasions, she succeeded in terminating the discourse by switching over to other issues. On one occasion, Adigwe recalled, Enema was not happy the way she arrested the situation. They had spent quite a time on the topic when suddenly Adigwe changed the discussion to academic matters. She reasoned that the terminal examination was around the corner. Why did you do that? Enema had interrogated. What do you mean by the pronoun that? Adigwe questioned in return to Enema's question. I'm talking about the way you aborted an interesting discussion, but if you are trying to prove to me that you are a modern grammarian, in what other grammatical context could the word that be used? Adigwe was startled at what she interpreted as a rude challenge from her friend. They were in the same final year class and were competing for who was better in English. Enema was very sound and unbeaten in spoken English. Sometimes she also came tops in written version. She was the best debater in their school on account of her fluency in English. Her command of the English vocabulary and her oratorical skills. Adigwe was the best student of their class in the area of grammar, and everybody knew it. She always listened attentively to their teacher and always followed her bumper to bumper. In all the steps she